the Revved Up Sports Show with Bobby Chaffee.
We do have this nice little format that we try to follow every week. We don't usually follow it.
And Rodney Rodriguez.
Entertain me. Tell me something. I need to know something other than what I'm seeing.
Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Here's Bobby and Rodney.
Hello, friends. It is time once again. Weather an issue. Down south, it's Showtime. Bobby Chaffee. I'm Rodney Rodriguez. Up north, we are in Texas. How you doing, man? You staying dry?
Trying to. It's a little rough out there now with the thunder rolling and a little bit of a thunderstorm we got happening right now. But the lights were flickering earlier. But I think it'll be kind to us since we got some pretty big guests coming on tonight. Hopefully, Mother Nature will be good to me tonight. Keep the lights on.
We got everything on the backup generators, meaning hotspots. So we are set to go here for the show coming up here in just a little bit, 6:45 or so. We talked to Bubba Pollard, who wins at Speedfest. Just a great weekend for him. And then really excited, the Texas Sprint Series, their schedule comes out over the weekend. And that looks like that's going to be, man, you want to talk about hitting some badass tracks? They've got it right there.
Yeah, lots of interesting tracks. I like the double points format. I want to talk to the guys over there.
I love that.
And find out what goes into determining which races are going to be a double format. It looks like the trip out to Abilene is a couple of different times is going to be a double point event. So I'm assuming that the travel has to do something with that. You and I both working with making schedules with series before. You kind of have the events that you think might not be as heavily attended. Sometimes end up being double points night or double purse nights, whatever the case may be. So that might be with the Texas Sprint Series. See what they've got to say about that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I got to tell you, Bobby, one of the things I really enjoyed watching on Saturday, because I was trying to plan for the whole day because I had a lot of free time in the afternoon into the evening, and I thought that Speedfest was going to be a night thing. I think that maybe some of these tracks ought to see what they did. Man, I love that day format. I mean, it was cold. It was cold and cordial, but for them to be able to get that race, to get the 5 features in, get everything done before the sun went down, man, I love that. That was kick-ass. That was pretty enticing right there.
Well, I think when you figured out everything you had going on against it, right? It's the same reason that the WWE put the Royal Rumble on a Saturday night instead of a Sunday night to go head-to-head against the NFC Championship game for the football. And so I think when you figure out your analysis, you got to figure out where you're going to have the bigger window. A lot of that goes into the fact of when do you have your bigger races. Obviously, you don't have an Xfinity race to go head to head against right now, or a truck race to go head to head against right now, because you got to figure there's a lot of similarities in different type of demographics for your listeners that go from the truck race to a super late model short track race. So there's got to be a lot of interest in there. So I think a lot of it depends on that. And then who knows? Maybe it was really just too cold on a Saturday night to try to have the race. They decided to have it in the afternoon.
And it was a smooth show. I mean, you did have some hiccups in there, but obviously the cooler temperatures were going to play some havoc there. But when it was all said and done, the Battle of the 26s, and I mean the pro race was great as well, with Michael Hine winning that race. Modifieds of Mayhem, Timmy Moore wins. I think it was a really good show and a really good start now is because now that we're into February, oh man, and I just got some breaking news that I'm going to pop here in a minute. Now that we are into February, I mean, it's go time. I mean, it is time to go.
Yeah, it's time to fire up. The Super Late Model World kind of sets on fire. Speedfest has been the event that sets everything off. It used to be the Rattler. Was kind of the way to get everything fired up. And now you got Speedfest and Cordele. I think they go back in a couple of weeks for another one of the Southern Super Series races down there. So, or up there, depending on where you're at. But it looks like it looks like it's a good time to be had. What's your take before we get to the breaking news? What's your take on these CRA street stock? Are they the asphalt equivalent of a factory stock with as much money as these guys are spending on these cars?
I would think so. And that's where you get to that class to where it becomes, they look great. But I mean, how do you manage everything? And it's so hard now, Bobby, because you remember back in the old days, I mean, you went to the junkyard and found the pieces and everything. But now there are so many different ways to acquire. And seriously, I mean, it's in the shocks. It's in the rear end. I mean, you can put lipstick on a pig. I mean, you can make it look as stock as you want, but when you get to the bare bones, I mean, that's where you start to see all the differences there, and that's where all the money's spent. And to figure that part out. And I think that's where Ricky Brooks with the Wheelman series is really trying to do everything that he can to make that affordable, to make that some sort of and we saw that schedule. I want to get Ricky on here so he can talk about that as well, for him to take that over. Man, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, you can make them look a certain way, but to control that spending, I mean, that's where you've got to be really ballsy and make sure that you're doing whatever the rules say that you can or can't do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one of the ways to look at it. Those cars look really expensive when they were coming through. Obviously, the bodies
right.
on a couple of them look really good. A couple of the cars kind of timing in from the throwback weekend that they had a couple of weeks ago there at Dillon. But those cars, they look expensive. They sound expensive compared to regular street stock, if you will. Yeah. I'm sure street stock is more in air quotes than anything else, because they look like they're basically old late model chassis as fast as they are with those perimeter chassis.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's part of that right there. I mean, those chassis, they just kind of, they recycle themselves. And I mean, to get rid of a really good race car is a very hard thing to do. And you find ways to put them in a series into something that you can use them with. But yeah, good stuff right there. But I mean, that's an ongoing battle right there. So here we go. Here's your breaking news. And I just got this from Big Mike, my man, Big Mike at Waco. So we were set for February 5th. The Big Chill 250 was coming up this weekend at Heart of Texas. I don't know if anybody's checked the forecast or not, but Thursday is going to be horrible. Friday's not going to be much better, and Saturday's going to suck also. That has been moved to February the 12th, and I think that is a very smart move to do on Monday before the race.
Well, I hadn't seen the forecast past Thursday so far. I mean, obviously the forecast there for Wednesday is kind of important to me. Kind of depends on what I might do for my birthday there, which is not looking great. But I saw the forecast where it's going to be in the upper 20s for high temperatures there on Thursday, at least here in Austin. So it's only going to get colder the further north you go. It doesn't look like there was a lot of change on Friday and into Saturday. So it's a good thing. You got to have the people in the stands. You've run enduros before in the ice and the snow, and they don't have a lot of people show up both in the grandstands and both in the pits.
Yeah, that's the thing last year. I mean, I think they did it last year. Nobody showed up. And I mean, you had a good car count. I mean, the folks that show up. But at the same time, for racers and the teams, I mean, it sucks to be out there when it's horrible. And the fact that they're moving this thing out, and I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe it's going to be an epic fail to where the forecasters miss this whole thing. It's happened from time to time. Maybe that's going to be the case, but I really think that it's probably a better idea, because you do have, I mean, it's so early in the season. I mean, prior to the actual season getting started, it's probably a good idea to push this thing out. So it'll be February the 12th. The racing starts at 3. Pit gates open at noon. So that'll be not this Saturday, but pushing out 1 week, February 12th to, what's that? That's the day before the Super Bowl. So,
day before the Super Bowl. That's right.
Day before the Super Bowl. So jump on out there, go to Heart of Texas Speedway and watch the Big Chill Enduro 250. It'll be well worth it. $15 going there. Family fun. They'll have stuff to do for everybody, just as they had planned to do here this weekend. But I like it. I mean, don't risk it. Don't lose your front gate because you don't know what the weather's going to do.
Yeah, never wish the front gate. I mean, we've been in both sides of that, where you want to race as a racer, but then you have to make the decision as the track operator, or be in that group of people that has to make that decision from the track promotion aspect of it about what to do about racing. When the forecast is always, I think it's different when it's raining versus when it's cold, because you can't always predict the rain, but you can pretty much predict the cold weather is going to stay around for a couple of days. Do you throw in that ice and stuff they have scheduled that have set pretty much for all day Thursday into Friday? That pretty much sums it up, but the cold weather really ends up hurting the front gate too.
Absolutely. So before we talk to Bubba, and we'll get him lined up here in just a minute, but so your thoughts on all that yesterday? I mean, to see him, to see the 26s going at it, and I think it's one of those things where I think folks were saying that Bubba's doing other things, and we can ask him here in just a minute, but I really like that, just super humble, and I hate to say that he's back, but he's there again. I think is probably the best way to talk about that.
I think that's part of the way we'll ask him about if he thinks he's back, or if he never left, just had a little bit of down period with a different car. But I really think that when you take a step back, it ends up changing your mindset on a lot of things.
Right.
You get a chance to change your priorities just a little bit, but being able to race in front of your hometown or your home state people, you had lots of family and friends. It's a whole lot easier for them to get to Cordele than it is to get down to Pensacola. So I think that changed a whole lot trying to get that stuff happening there.
Well, and he has been doing things. I mean, because, he had the track there that they were working on. And you did mention that. I mean, the change right there, I mean, maybe a step out on the ledge right there to try to do something different. But you got to applaud the guy. And to see the tenacity and everything, I mean, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed.
It looked like the Bubba Pollard of old there with the way he was dueling with the other 26 and coming through that field and had a lot of success there. But it looked like a typical Bubba Pollard race to me from all the highlights and stuff that I got to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. So quickly before that, so we are into February, like I talked about it, and I mean now we're going. I mean, because now we've got Test and Tune. I mean, everybody's fixing to get fired up. I mean, as long you've done this, you're younger than me, obviously, but to see this, I mean, we used to talk about it. It was like, okay, you got fired up in April and May, but I mean, here we are in February. This is racing season. Isn't it weird to see how this is all kind of sped itself up over the years?
I think it's really weird because your banquets are now in a completely different time period whenever the banquets decided to come along, where now you're doing your banquets at the end of January, first part of February, where before you used to do them at the end of the season when the season was over. You used to do them in October because the race season went all the way down to Labor Day. That was the last time we were at a racetrack was Labor Day weekend. Right. You go from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and you raced every weekend in between there, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I think the way that the schedule now, it's the racing has become – I don't want to say it's become so big. It's become to the point to where everybody tries to get the race in. So you started having these big shows to open up the season to try to get money coming in the gate.
Right.
And you got the end of the year shows that try to close the year, try to get the books back into black. And so I think that you've seen that. And as it's come through, just the different events have stretched the calendar all the way out from basically January, where you do banquets, all the way to big races in December now.
How much of this is different to you? Because when we talk about, racing in April and all this, it's asphalt. But with dirt, I think that's where the difference is, because that seems to be, you look at, well, I mean, obviously in Texas, I mean, you've got the dirt tracks are carrying the flag, but how big is that with dirt that you're able to get started sooner? I think, depending on rain, I mean, because that can be disastrous as well.
Well, we've learned that Mother Nature in the beginning of the year has been detrimental to racing on all fronts, asphalt, especially dirt. You could kind of throw Snowvid 21 out the window just because of the fact that was such a freak weather incident, being especially in the Central Texas area, or Texas in general, being froze down for a week worth of under freezing temperatures. But I think as far as that goes, I mean, I think that the fact you can race all the way into December and all that now, and start racing in February, I mean, it's just part of the beast now.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's great for all the racetracks because they're able to promote this stuff to where they're ready to go, and it. I love the idea of the early year, snowball, the early enduro. I mean, I think that's a great idea to where teams are going to get out there and they're going to be able to do stuff a little bit early.
Well, I think so too. I mean, when we talked to Rob and Libby Poor, the promoters there at Abilene Speedway, they talked about their icebreaker. That used to be the only event that would kick off the dirt track season there in Abilene. I mean, it was one of the only races that started before your regular track championships took off. So like they said, that had a detrimental effect on their bottom line because you didn't have that great big race to try to, I don't want to say cook the books by no means, but make sure that the books were a little bit more filled by the time you got to your regular weekly show. Yeah,
no doubt about it. And the whole thing is, I mean, it's so funny when you watch some of the teams that even I saw it with the Waco stuff where we're leading up to that race and folks want to go practice. It's like, when's the track going to open? I mean, when do we get to practice? And I think that's part of the thing where folks have been, the off season has gotten so much shorter, but at the same time, we can put the economic part of this to where it's, you don't want to spend as much money. And I had a great discussion with someone the other day where we were talking about folks want less race dates, but it really seems like every time that a track or a series tries to trim the race dates down, folks want to go practice. Folks want additional dates. And that's where I'm so confused on what people really want when it comes to a race schedule.
Well, I think people want more dates, but then if you in the case of like a Houston Motorsports Park where you have one of the races that could have been a race date ends up being a practice date. Now, I don't know if that's because you couldn't lease the track all day, if that may be the case. I don't know about the exact specifics of that particular practice day, but some people were complaining. Half of them were happy there was a practice day. Other people were complaining that that didn't turn into a race day. So I think you have your either or crowd where, people want more race time, but maybe it's just because they just want more track time in general, whether it be asphalt or dirt.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that I dug out of when we talk about track time. What I saw yesterday, the 5 feature races. I mean, you remember the days of CTS, and Houston has struggled with this as well, to where you want to have as many races as possible for people to get out on the racetrack and be able to do whatever. But the size of the show, the quantity, the content, everything, I really liked what I saw packaged in that show yesterday at Speedfest.
They had a little bit of everything. We had your legend cars start out with the racing action. Then you had your CRA street stocks. You had your modifieds and mayhem racing. And then you had both your pro and your super late model races. So it was a little bit of something different. You weren't stuck with a million stock classes. You weren't stuck with so many classes that looked the same. We run into that a lot of times here. We run into the challenge at Houston Motorsports Park with the super stocks having the outlaw bodies, but they don't look the same. Once they get on the racetrack, we know that there's a difference between the two of them. And then when you see some of the issues at a dirt track, you got a hobby stock, you got a pure stock, you got a factory stock, you got an I stock. There's so many different stock car classes that all look about the same that sometimes they're hard to differentiate them. So on Saturday, you had a lot of really good classes with a great mix. You had a really good entry level division with the legend cars racing. Then you had the CRA street stocks, which is I guess somewhat of an entry level V8 class.
Yeah.
Then you had the modifieds, which is a destination touring series, and then you had the pro and the super late models. So it was a good show all around in terms of being packed with quality, and car count was relatively good in all 5 races.
It really seemed like, and working on Bubba Pollard, it seems like, with 20 super late models, I think that's something that's pretty good. I mean, that early in the year. I did see today, and this is where we're about to, and hopefully we'll get to ask him this, but I did see that. So now we're talking about with the track enterprises, and we talked about this last week, where folks are really getting jazzed up and really getting interested in this national touring super late model series. And you've got guys like Bubba and Stephen Nasse and these guys that are really kind of latching onto this, that are willing to travel across the country. I think and I saw that Track Enterprises, they've reached out to the folks up north. To Southern Super Series. Are they doing this the right way? Because you really have to get to these guys. You have to. I think the folks up north, if they get to know the Bubba Pollards, the Stephen Nasses, and these guys, and the folks down south, if the tour comes in and you get to know the folks from up there, I really think that's where you tie all this together. And I like the steps that they're taking, but man, I'm just kind of concerned that we're going to have some kind of divide happening here.
I think eventually there will be a divide, because you got to understand, he's looking at the marquee races that he wants to turn into the touring series. And realistically, you had a lot of guys that were, there for a while. Bubba Pollard was hitting all of the major marquee events. So was Stephen Nasse. So was a lot of these other guys that are touring around the country with these super late models. These guys and their promoters are not going to give up their premier events without a fight. There's going to have to be some type of dinero involved in there to make it worthwhile. You're not going to give up the Winchester 400 to make it part of a national touring series if it's not beneficial to yourself. I really think that's the way to got to look at it. Money is going to be the deciding factor on all of this. If there's a national touring series that goes out there, while it may not be the equivalent of the old ASA series like we were talking about last week, the other thing you have to figure out is each one of those races has to pay $25,000 to win.
And that's the big and that's the big part. That seems to be where it. You can talk about this every way that you want. I think what really happened was, the supers kind of fell into this thing where the demand was there. People really loved them, but the purse never increased. And it's like anything else, the cost of doing business. They everybody wanted these and loved them, but the purse never caught up. Even the Derby. We've talked about this for years, and talked to drivers on the show to where it's like it's more the glory of winning the Derby than actually going and making that big payday, which it should pay.
Well, the problem is, though, that's the way it is with a lot of different racing aspects of it. It's all about the glory of winning versus the cost effectiveness. Nobody goes in expecting to make money while racing. Right. Maybe some of your cup teams do with the amount of stuff, but you're never going to break even in racing with the amount of upfront cost you have to have with the race cars and the safety equipment, the tools, the parts, the pieces, right? Everybody knows going in, you're going to spend an ass chunk load of money to try to get your racing operation off the ground, whether it's a super late model, a cup team, or even something as simple as a mini stock when you got to invest in all the parts and pieces. So that's where the sponsorship comes in handy there to make it worthwhile. But I think that, it's all going to be about the almighty dollar just because of the fact that these guys have to make it. They got to make the ends meet somehow, and that's what it's going to be, whether it be taking a date from a promoter, taking a date from a series. It's going to end up being one of those things where it has to be beneficial to everybody involved, or else you're going to see the spearing off factor like you see now. We may see an outlaw touring series again in 2025. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I think that the wheelman is really at a critical point to where you have to keep it in line with what it's intended to do, because it's always people that want to step it out and try to take it to a different place. But of course, they're in good hands with the Ricky Brooks. I mean, for anyone, if there's anyone that you want to be the shouldering the load of keeping something in line, I think that's the dude. Big week for racing, and people don't you don't want to admit this, and you can at Bobby and I, whatever you want to say, but the fact that I've seen some renderings today, I mean, the closed product, I watched Race Hub a while ago, and to see what they're doing at the Coliseum, this really is a chance to showcase short track racing. Yes, it's not our people. It's not our guys. It's some guys that we've had, but this is a big chance. This is a big chance for the format. I mean, when it comes to LCQs and heat races and all this, I think, man, this is really a big weekend for our sport, because and I know a lot of folks are saying, why are you changing the class? Why don't you go run, up at, wherever. This is massive. This is going to be a big deal on Saturday evening to see all this shit happening on a short track, on a quarter-mile short track, albeit in California. This is big, really big.
Well, there's only so many quarter-mile racetracks that can seat 60-something thousand people,
That's
right? Even Bowman Gray, as big as it is, Bowman Gray only holds 20-ish thousand people.
Dude, I looked up ticket prices because they're still available. It's not that expensive. I mean, the whole part is for us to get there, but it's not that expensive to go entertain with what they're going to do.
Yeah, they're not very expensive at all. So I think that's the part of it that makes it happen. With that, though, I mean, it's I can't wait to talk about it more in depth on Saturday.
Yeah,
just because of the way that it's going to shake out. But it's has the chance to be a wonderful cluster. Do I think it's going to be the best race ever? Probably not. Does it run the chance of being the most clusterish race ever? Yeah, we've had a couple of clashes in that way at Daytona with 5 cars running at the end when they started with 25 with the draft, but it's got a chance to be but it has a chance to be an amazing race too.
But I'd rather have that cluster there with this than at Daytona. I mean, because folks frown upon the speedway racing, and I think this I don't know. And the whole thing is now we're worried about car shortages and everything else, parts and getting stuff where it needs to be. I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it's a great way to showcase our sport. And it's a great platform. It's a great place. I mean, you've got with the Rams getting in the Super Bowl, all the eyes are on this spot, and I think we all need to support it. And whether you like it or not, tune in. I think the TV number is going to be really, really good.
Well, I think that the TV numbers were good just because of the fact that Fox got to promote it during the NFC Championship game. We've seen statistically that the races where Fox does the Super Bowl, that next corresponding Daytona 500 has really exceptional ratings. So I think that's part of it. I don't think people understand the concept of racing inside the LA Coliseum. I think that's what a lot of people are missing out, is that it's a literal short track. You're used to seeing NASCAR stuff go through on a major scale, like the half miles and the 3/4 miles and your mile and a half, but this is a quarter-mile bull ring that's happening right now.
It's going to be fun, and that's what it's all about. And we all get to see it, and a lot of other people get to see it that are not used to it, and that's the main thing. Eyeballs, you got to get eyeballs on it. But let's go to the hotline. When we want to talk about short track racing, I mean, we got one dude. I mean, we got the king, and I am excited on a rainy night in Texas that we get to talk to the man that dazzled him at Speedfest, made him look bad, for crying out loud. The number 26, it is King Bubba Pollard. Bubba, how we doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys tonight?
Man, we are great. Hopefully you're having a cold beer, ready to talk a little bit of racing here with us, my friend. Talk about the weekend, dude. Stellar TM Ranch team on point.
Man, I couldn't ask for a better group of guys. Race car. I mean, just Port City race cars have done a phenomenal job just to give us and provide us what we need to make these things go fast. We've worked hard over the last year and a half, and during the off season here, we really had a lot of momentum coming in. We didn't have the finish we wanted at the Snowball Derby, but we were quick, we were fast. We knew that, and we worked hard over the off season to get it where we needed, and it's paid off. We won the Red Eye at New Smyrna earlier this year, and to be able to go to Speed Fest with the caliber cars that were there and get a win, we're ready. We're excited to get back going and hopefully have a good year.
Hell yeah.
So, but before you came on, we were talking about the differences with the schedules being so expanded now, where you're racing in January, first couple of weekends, the red eye so early now, you don't even get a chance to have much of an off season. For you as a racer and a race team owner and all that, do you look at that type of stuff with trying to plan out your year of we can't race here because it's too early, or does that even matter anymore because you just want to go out and race now?
I'm ready to race. If there's a race on the schedule or a race out there, we're going to try to be there. I'm just disappointed we can't be in California this weekend for the showdown in Irwindale. It's a place I want to go to. Couldn't make it happen. We have a big event this weekend at our racetrack at the dirt track with the All-Star Circuits of Champions, and they're excited to get the 410 sprint cars there. And we try to race as much as we can. The bigger the notebook, the better year you're going to have. You can learn, manage, and me getting back in the swing of things and what I need to do, hit your mark, stay focused. The more you can race, the more experience you got. Even I've been doing it 20 years now, but if I can the more you stay in the seat, the better you're going to be. And that's what we try to do. And we're ready to go this year. We have a big year planned. I think 28, 30 races scheduled, nice. Not including the dirt car. So we're ready to go back racing.
Right on. And Bubba, talk about that. I mean, your track. I think that's one of the things you have taken that on. I mean, that we always talk about promoters and racetrack owners and everything that they have to do. That right there, that is a full damn time job when you take on a racetrack and try to get that thing rolling and make it as best as it can be.
Yeah, man, people have no idea. Just to put the people in place and all the behind the scenes effort that goes into it. My sister does a lot with the racetrack. I mean, she pretty much runs it. I try to take care of all the manual labor around the racetrack with getting it ready and picking up trash and doing whatever needs to be done. We were sweeping today and rolling the track in. So yeah, it's a full-time job, and then trying to go race too with my program. So it's a lot to juggle, but I always tell people we created it, and we're the ones that have to dig down and go to work.
Yes, sir.
So, Bubba, thinking of series and stuff coming to different racetracks, obviously the SRX schedule came out today, and your name pops up on social media all day long in a good way about when they announced that race at Pensacola, and I'm sure they got NDAs and all kind of stuff there to keep the drivers under wraps. But in the scenario that, say, the SRX series asked Bubba Pollard, hey, would you like to be one of the local heroes to race against these racing veterans? Is that something that you'd be interested in without a heartbeat?
Yeah, I mean, it would be cool. It's a great honor if I did get picked to do it, because that's what they're doing. I think it's a great job. I'd like to see them expand just some other places, but they really are helping. I don't know, they're really helping the short track community, these racetracks. So if they can continue that, as long. I would definitely support it. It would be pretty cool to be able to do that once in a lifetime kind of deal. I definitely have to take a shot at it, I guess.
Yeah, I hope so. So I got to ask you, I think one of the coolest parts of yesterday was after that race when they came up and doing the interview or whatever, and they said, Bubba's back. And I mean, your response was, hell, I ain't been gone. I mean, talk about that. When people say Bubba's back, I mean, hell, you've been around.
You know why they say I'm back?
Yeah.
Because I spoiled them by winning all the time. When you win all the time, I mean, if I didn't win all the time, hell, I won one race last year. I think I may have raced 10 times.
Yeah.
Normally I win 14, 15, 20 times in a year. I just spoiled all the haters out there.
That's right.
They love to hate on me. So, I mean, I'm glad, I give them something to talk about.
That's awesome. That's kick ass.
Speaking of going for the win again, are you running speed weeks down there at New Smyrna again this year?
Well, our plan is to run. They have a 15,000 to win race over at Citrus County Speedway, tight little quarter mile. I mean, it's tight. And then we're going to try to. That's on February 12th, and then the 14th will be at New Smyrna on Monday for a 100-lapper. If we got anything left coming out of Citrus County, we'll see how that goes, and then we'll have another 100-lapper at the end of the week. So we're going to kind of go to Disney in between. What do they say when you win a race? Let's go to Disney.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So I'm taking the family.
Hell yeah.
So, we're gonna go down there for a couple of days and enjoy it, have some fun, and race a couple of nights as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about it, Bubba. Kind of tail it back a little bit. I mean, you made the change. I mean, you were doing something different. I mean, you've been so good for so long. And like I said, when they said that you're back, it's like, you spoiled them. You spoiled them. But you made a change. You tried something different. But man, it's like right now you've gone back to the roots of just being really badass, because it's been between the two of them, between the 50 and then this past weekend, man. That is the Bubba Pollard that we know and love.
Yeah, I mean, I have that desire to win. I don't go to run second. I don't go if I don't have a shot. I'm not going to race.
Yeah.
In anything I do, I don't care if it's racing wheelchairs across the yard. There, I'm gonna flip my mom or my dad over to win. I mean, that's how I was brought up, and that's what. That's why we've been successful, I think, and all my guys that help me, that's what we push. They're the same as I am. They don't want to be there because they're there to help me, and they're not getting paid. It's not a job to them. They're volunteer guys. They want to win as much as I do, and we're not going unless we're capable of winning, and we hadn't been able to do that the last year.
Right.
We had other priorities and things happen, so. We give 100%. My guys are behind me. Everything's rolling right now. We got some momentum.
Hell yeah.
We're ready to go. So hopefully we can win some more races and get them haters to talking again.
All right, Bubba, last couple of questions before we cut you loose. Thanks for the time, as always. So now you've got this Sargent deal and purchasing of the CRA and talking about a national late model touring series. You've been on us a couple of times before and talked about all the name brand guys go and run all the big races around the country anyways. Is there a need for a national touring series now, or is it going to be just pay the money and they'll show up?
No, I think it'd be good for a national series to come in. You hear people talk about ASA and Hooters Pro Cup. There's a lot of fans out there that like the national tour, and as a driver, it puts us, it makes us feel like, we can be one day a part of something like that,
Sure.
That the national, you hear everyone talk about the ASA days and the Pro Cup days and things like that. That's something I'm jealous that I didn't grow up in that era of racing to be able to do that. But I think it's good. I think Bob Sargent has to fire some people before it can work to be successful.
Hell yeah.
But other than that, I think it's got very good potential and is very capable of one day being a great series. So there's some personnel that has to be changed, but I'm all for it. Hopefully, I think he's the person that can do it. He's been successful at promoting races and what he's done with Nashville, and He does dirt stuff, Knoxville. So I think he'll do a great job. Hopefully one day we can do it.
Isn't that the cool thing? Because you've got like Derek Thorne, from the West, and you got guys up north. I mean, there's so many guys up north, and you guys down here. I mean, in the South. I mean, to be able to put that all together. I mean, that would truly be to figure out the logistics. I mean, I know gas is expensive, and I don't know if that's going to get better. But man, I think it really would be cool to let you guys just have at it.
I think so. You got guys like Derek Thorne and then that's Derek Thorne. I got a lot of respect for him, like Tom Majeski. There's some great racers out there.
Yeah.
There's some in the Midwest, and then you got some people that think they're good that are not, that they're going to attempt to race with those guys. And it'll be fun to race against some of them and see what they're made of. You know what I mean? So, Derek Thorne, Tom Majeski, I mean, they're going to win. They're going to be there. But it'll be, then you got the guys that come in, the local guys like at Berlin Raceway or Slinger, Wisconsin. Man, it's going to be tough to outrun those guys. So that's what's going to be good. You don't have the local racing in the South here, but when you go up to, let's just say we go to Oxford 250, some of these boys better get their ducks in a row because it ain't easy. You go to Slinger, Wisconsin, it's not easy. Those local guys, they're for real, So it's going to be a lot of fun to see that and see these guys go up there and try to run with those guys. And it's not as easy as I think it is.
That's right. That's exactly right. Lastly, let me ask you, man, how cool was it yesterday? I mean, and when I mean cool, because I know it was cold as shit out there, but to get that race in, I mean, to walk out of there, because you had the battle there with Chandler and with Donnie's team. I mean, Donnie's, we've known Donnie for years, but that whole it's a fun jab there when they talk about 26, the 26, and all that. But I mean, you are the 26, and like yesterday, you dropped the fucking gauntlet down and said the 26 is here. How cool was that for you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not that type of person.
I know.
I go out there and I tell it like it is. I ain't scared, but I'm not a cocky person. But that kid has a lot of races to win before he can be the real 26. Woo! And if he can win them, I'll give it to him. But he's got a long way to go. I was winning races when he was shitting yellow.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So what is next? Quickly, you got the Rattler, I guess, would be the next big one. I mean, I know we talked about the World Series and everything, but the Rattler. I mean, do you have that one circled? Is that the next one you're going to go out there and be like, boom, here we go?
I hope so. That's the Rattler. It's a place I've won at before, but we've had good cars there and just never been able to, I've had opportunities to win races and just something happened. So it's a place I want to win. We've won the Baby Rattler several times, but the Rattler only once. But that's a place I enjoy going there. Great people, John and Sandra Dykes. I mean, I started racing late models at Alabama before anywhere. It's where I kind of cut my teeth at. So in a super late model. So we're excited to go back there and support them and have some fun.
Yep. Looking forward to that. That's going to be a good time. I'd have to go see that one in person, but BP, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for jumping on with us, my friend, and look forward to some more kick-ass this year with you.
Well, I appreciate it, and always enjoy talking to you guys.
All right, man. Take care.
Thank you.
You bet. There he is. I think he's ready. I think he is ready for 2022.
Yeah, he's definitely fired up, right? I'll be interested to see that. Citrus County is slowly but surely making more and more waves in this Southern racing scene, because he's not the only one we talked to. We talked to Chris Davidson about it, wanting to run some races there at Citrus County. Donnie has mentioned it before about that track having really good purses for the amount of races and the amount of laps they have. So the fact that Citrus County continues to pop up on everybody's radar, that's a good thing for them, especially when you're going head-to-head against the World Series down there.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think it's so cool with him because, like he said, he's not one – he doesn't talk shit. I mean, he doesn't. But, you have to know that it's poking at him a little bit when people say, well, but Bubba hadn't been Bubba. But he did. I mean, he took a gamble. He made the change, and to do what he did. But folks don't realize exactly what he was talking about. Running the track in Sonoya, and him and Andrea doing that. As much as we talk about promoters, you want to talk about a distraction? I wouldn't be on my marks either if I had to mess with all that shit.
It's just crazy. I mean, I think we didn't get into the full track promoter thing, but we talked to enough promoters on here before to know that it's just not as simple as flipping on the damn lights, especially the dirt tracks. You got all
Exactly.
But when the family's taking on so much, his sister's basically running the back gate, running the books and everything else, and he's doing all the manual labor. That's 3/4 of the battle right there. I mean, other than trying to figure, that's not including having to make sure that all your staff is there, having to make sure all your bankroll is there so that you can pay the drivers that night. Not even making sure that your staff completely. You've got, and it's the staff you don't think about. Your security guards.
I know.
Your front gate guards.
Cleaning up the mess.
Inspectors.
Yeah.
Exactly. So much more going on to it than what people know. And the fact that he's able to do that this weekend, hell yeah, he wants to run in California. He'd love to run that Winter Showdown. But that All-Star Circuit of Champions race that he's got coming to Sonoya Raceway is a big-time event for that racetrack. That's a good way to kick off their season.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that's where we're seeing with him, depending on what happens. I know he's committed to Southern Super Series, and I mean, what a great you got a great lineup of guys that are going to be doing that. But I love when you asked him about the national thing. And honestly, Bobby, when you look at it, let's think about him. So if he's going to go, whether it be out west, if they find a place out west, or way up north, 25,000 to win, for him to get his stuff there, it's a great winner's purse. But man, that ain't doing nothing. But these guys want to go race for that amount of money. And I think that's where you need to appreciate what these teams are doing, because it's it's expensive.
It may be the right time for the right series. Every once in a while, you're able to catch the genie in the bottle, right? You're able to make something work. 5 years ago, nobody wanted the National Touring Series because all the big-time super late model drivers were all going to the big-time super late model races.
Right.
Your All-American 400, your Winchester 400, it came through, and it made it a lot of fun for a lot of racers. That's where ASA really found its niche back there in the late 80s into the early 90s.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing, because back in the day, we've talked about it here when you had Rex Robbins with ASA and Bob Harmon with All Pro, with Freddie and all the guys here, that did it in the South. You did really have the two distinctive parts of North and South that would converge into one place. And I really think it's cool, because Dirt does this as well, to where they do this all the time. Whether it be with the iStocks or with the late models or with whatever's going on, it's like they do it a lot. And I think that's where for pavement racing, it's going to be hard to reestablish that. But I think the fact that you do have the Bubbas and the Stephen Nassy and Jake Garcia and Ty Majeski and all these guys that want to attempt to do it, I think that's a great place. Then you have to figure out the venues, and that's big. That's a big thing. People are going to get left out, and you know what happens when people get left out? They get pissed.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the marquee events either. I mean, you could try to rent Berlin out to try to run a big event at Berlin. Same thing with Winchester. Same thing. Definitely, I think Tim would be in with a big ass race at Pensacola. Yeah, for sure. Without it being a Southern Super Series race, I mean, who knows how much it costs to get SRX there. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for that particular type of discussion. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be the big marquee events. You could run a touring series. I mean, wasn't the Winchester 400, wasn't that an event on its own, or was that an old ASA race?
What was that? I think that was an old, I think it was an ASA race to where All Pro was invited. And I think that they kind of did the CRA, like what's happening right now, like what we just saw yesterday, or Saturday. I think they co-promoted that thing to where it was, to where they all showed up, and they went to Winchester and just had at it. And of course, much less complicated back in those days, but I think that's possible again. And I do want to see. I mean, I do want to see them travel across country, but man, I know it's going to cost a lot of money. But and then again, what you asked with Bubba, back to SRX. So I've seen so many names tossed around with that. Obviously, Bubba would be, the top of mind to be the guy. Nassie would be one that you would throw out there, but man, there's a lot of them. I mean, you could make a case for Logan Boyette. I mean, I think they may have 2 or 3 for that. I haven't seen that lineup yet. Is it the same? I don't know.
They haven't announced it yet.
That's what I thought. And I love what they're doing there, to where you've got Nashville's back on. They've got a couple of new venues, including Five Flags, but and dirt, everything. I mean, they're keeping true to what they do. But at some point, they do need to expand. Great point by Bubba as well. But I mean, who else? I mean, other great names there. I mean, besides Pollard, I mean, who are you going to put in that mix?
They had the local hero. That's how you had Doug Colby pop up when he did the race there at Stafford last year to kick it off, and went in there and just smoked their ass at the series debut there. But I don't know, man. I think that that's got to be your couple of leading guys there. Bubba Pollard, Stephen Nassie. He'd have a good run in there with Paul Tracy if Paul Tracy runs again. So that could be a lot of fun.
Oh man, that would be fun right there. That'd be fun. Those two racing. That'd be fun.
Maybe throwing it. Haley Deegan's talking about doing it again if she gets asked. So no telling who's going to pop up where. Yeah. Good stuff. SRX is that fires off once again, and it will fire off at Five Flag Speedway. And congratulations, Tim, and that bunch there, getting yet another great event. And it is. I mean, who's gonna be that local hero? Because there's so many of them that have come through there and continued. I mean, hell, you could take. I mean, the man that won the Snowball Derby. I mean, well, I don't know. Does he qualify? I mean, because he's in the he's in the truck series, so yeah. I don't know if he'd qualify or not. They let Chase Elliott go, but that was to put butts in the seats. So
yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, but that'll be to be determined as we get into February, and we are in racing season. Thanks to Bubba Pollard for jumping on as he wins once again. That's 2 back-to-back, and that team is on point. Those guys, they're hitting everything like they should. And to see Bubba racing right there, I thought it was funny where he said, I've been a little rusty. He didn't look rusty yesterday.
No, not really. But to him to be rusty, I mean, I think it's the same thing. You missed a couple of races, man, and you missed a lot.
That's important.
Like you talked about, You have to be on the racetrack to have that notebook get built as big as it can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have to. I think a lot of this is. I mean, you got to be on the racetrack. These cars continually change, and it's for him to be able to keep up with those changes. It was really cool to see him win. Before we talk sprints, and I know we'll talk about this on Saturday. Supercross. What'd you think of Supercross on Saturday or Sunday morning, whenever the hell that was?
I guess it was. Well, it would have been Sunday morning. No, it was over before midnight.
Yeah, it was.
I think to see Tomac finally get one there. I think there's a budding rivalry between Ken Roxon and Jason Anderson after a couple of run-ins the last couple of weeks. Yep. But I think the biggest surprise was the lack of presence in the front for Cooper Webb 4 races into the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll continue to follow that. But the champ should be better. Rolex 24, you've got that done. Man, just so cool to watch all that and to watch the overnight stuff. I know folks were confused somewhat on the coverage, but it was actually pretty easy to figure out. I mean, there was a lot on USA.
A whole lot of racing on USA. A lot.
A lot.
I mean, I guess they didn't really have a chance to run any more reruns of Chicago Fire or Law and Order or anything like that. So they were able to run a lot of racing into the late nights. I mean, they ran until 2:00 in the morning on one section of coverage there. So I think NBC's all in on some of the racing stuff. I think that there's been talk about CBS and ESPN getting back in this next region or the next realignment, so to speak, when they go to the next television package there in 2024. I think Fox is pretty much good to go. I think they enjoy their NASCAR involvement. It keeps them fired up right into football, into that. It goes from, you got football, NASCAR into baseball. I think it fits in good with their sports properties, and it continues to have good ratings. So you have that. But I think for the next couple of years, moving a lot of that stuff over to USA is going to make a difference, because there's a whole lot more households that have USA Network as part of their standard basic cable package than any place where you had to get the second and third tier to get NBC Sports Network. There's a lot of places that have it now. I noticed that it was on there a lot more, because I just switched providers myself and noticed, I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was on basic cable anymore, where I had to have an advanced sports package to have it before. So we'll see how it all shakes out with NASCAR and stuff popping up there on the second half of the season.
And I think before too long, I mean, some of the secondary, what we say secondary stuff, I mean, we may get some of that NBC stuff that does pop up on USA, and I think that's really a good thing, because that's recognizable. I mean, the USA Network versus NBCSN, and I love NBCSN, but I think it's a good spot for that to land, because it really is. It's easier to get. I mean, it's in most basic cable packages and everything. I think that the viewership is going to increase, but man, I really think that this Fox thing this weekend, because they are dedicating, and it's perfect, in between the Super Bowl and the conference championships. This is going to be huge, man. I think Fox is giving us a great opportunity to put eyeballs onto this thing that's coming up this weekend.
It's going to be great to watch social media and see all the people that hate NASCAR and claim that they're never going to watch, to see how much they bitch about this race.
That's going to happen. And
never going to watch another NASCAR race, because of all the changes and everything else, they're going to be the first ones bitching on social media come Monday morning. They're
going to figure out every hole into this mess. And I really don't think that it's going to be, that big of a deal. I mean, I think it's going to be entertaining, and that's what we want to see. I mean, we want something that feels normal. The heat races, LCQs, all that. I think it's going to be massive.
I think it's got a chance to be really good as far as coming through and making a lot of stuff happen. So who knows, man? I'm looking forward to it.
That's right. We're going to the hotline once again, the Lone Star Speed Zone hotline. We talked to Bubba Pollard earlier, but now we're going to the dirt side. Saw a really nice schedule that came out this weekend, the Texas Sprint Series, man. The sprint cars show up in town, and that's when folks show up in droves, because they want to see that speed. They want to see that excitement. They want to see those, big, whatever you want to call them. Texas Sprint Series 2022 schedule is out, and we're going to the hotline. It is Danny. Okay. Is it Merrill or Morrell? One of you guys tell me.
Merrill.
Yeah, Merrill. Love it. Danny Merrill and, of course, Casey Merrill. We got the tandem. They're both jumping on, guys. Thanks for being a part of the program this evening.
Cool. Glad to have us.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the series. I mean, you guys, you've got 22 out. I mean, what a great assortment of racetracks that you guys have lined up for this season.
Well, we work pretty hard on it. It's really a juggling act to try to not step on anybody else's feet, and then spread them out far enough that they, everybody's thirsty for us to be there when we show up. Yeah. We try to put on the best show we can and get the fans involved, and it's a juggling act for sure to make up the schedule.
Absolutely.
So before you guys came on, we were talking, Roddy and I were talking about how we've had an opportunity to work on the backside of a series, try to get schedules completed and stuff like that. I've noticed that a couple of the races that you guys have, mainly in Abilene and a couple of the places, ended up being double point nights. Now, what goes into the creation of a double point night I know when we ran double points night, when we were running the limited modified series, it became a race that we thought needed to be a little bit more heavily attended. So we do a double points night there of a race that the track is a little further out of the schedule. Is that still the same concept with you guys when you're creating that 2022 schedule?
Well, I have to be honest with you. When I decided to make up the double point nights, we had a little bit of we're trying to mix up the championship. We paid $3,000 to the champion of our series.
Nice.
And we tried some things last year. We do a little redraw. We try to mix it up every night to where people can't really work the point system for the lineup. And then we decided, you know what, it'd be really nice to throw some wild cards in there to where guys could actually compete for the championship and not have to show up at every race. We average 32.8 cars a night in one class, so we've got our hands full every night. And the double point nights are they're at our furthest track out west. We were trying to create some more excitement out there. Abilene loves us. We love going out there to see Rob and Libby, and we get a packed house every time we go. So we just want to try to put on the best show possible and make it more worth the guys' while.
That's right. So talk about that. I mean, you mentioned Rob and Libby. They were our promoters of the year on this program. I mean, just a great show that they do there. But how important for you guys to have that great relationship with promoters? Because we always talk about the plight of the promoter, and that's a hard thing to establish that relationship and to have the trust with you guys as a series and them as promoters to make everything work.
Well, I have to say we've been pretty blessed. Our promoters really love us.
Love it.
That's one of the things that when I'm making up the schedule, and I do it on myself, if you don't want us to be there, and I mean want us to show up, we're not going to bring a race out there.
Hell yeah.
The biggest thing is we go out to tracks that they want the Texas Sprint Series there. They want as many cars as we can bring, and that's just one of the things that I really look forward to working with the promoters that want us there, that the crowd wants us there. And, naturally, the only people that don't want us there are the ones we fill their pits to where they got to drive around us. But, I can remember not being a sprint car guy for years and wondering them damn sprints show up. Now I got to pay extra and go watch them, but it got pretty interesting, and we try to be as hospitable as we can. The people that we want to be accommodating when we show up and not really step on anybody's feet, and we get out there, we put on our show, and we get out of the way as best we can.
That's right.
And so that way we put on a good show for the crowd. We interact with the fans. We get everybody involved that we can. We really pay attention to the kids, and they're the future of racing. And if we can get their interest early on, then we've done our job.
That's right.
The promoters, they really enjoy the way we work with the fans.
Yeah.
And, of course, our guys, we've got a tight-knit group, too. We've got some pretty stringent rules that go by, but as Casey can tell you, when he races it, he raced with the same rules that everybody else did, and it made for a pretty interesting show.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So talk about your cars. Obviously, there's all different kind of combinations of sprint cars, from 410s to 505s and 305s and all kind of stuff. Tell us about the sprint cars that run with you guys.
Well, the ones that we race are what's called a Race Saver. It's an IMCA Race Saver 305 series.
Mm-hmm.
We're sanctioned by IMCA. It's the Race Savers are the particular group. They're the chassis, the motor. The chassis are pretty much wide open, other than the titanium we're not allowed to use. But you can still have titanium throughout your car. But in turning inertia, they give you 1.5 inches. So they're pretty stringent rules there, and we go by them pretty thoroughly. This is what you call a spec class. It was made for people that want to race sprint cars that just really couldn't afford to go out and spend $50,000 on a motor.
Yes, sir.
There's some of our guys, we've got, I've got to be honest with you, I'm guilty of it myself. I've got $30,000 motors, and I got $10,000 motors, and I'll be honest with you, the one that I spend almost the least amount on is the best motor we have. So, and it's really competitive in that sense. And it's a nationwide series. IMCA brings that to the table. And, it really makes our job a lot easier whenever. I won't say that we pick and choose who gets to race with us, but we definitely want the people that want to race with us and want to be there to put on a show in an orderly fashion and put on, as good, hard, tight racing as possible with the spec cars.
Yeah. So, Danny, talk about it. You sound like so many of us that have been a part of racing for so long, and you've raced. I mean, give us your history. You raced, and now here you are. Here you are. You've fallen into that damn black hole of being a promoter.
Yeah.
A thankless job. Give us a whole history of yourself.
Well, if you want a history of Danny, my mom won a powder puff when she was 3 months pregnant with me.
Oh, my goodness.
My mom was a racer. My dad was a racer. My dad raced modifieds until he was 65 years old. Casey was born into it. We just don't know anything else.
Right.
I wish we knew this a little better sometimes. But we actually fell into promoting by trying to save this Race Saver class down here, because there's so many of what a lot of racers don't get is they'll complain and they'll bitch themselves right out of a place to race. And I used to race with Smiley, and I'm gonna tell you, you didn't pull any of that with him.
Right.
And I think it set a pretty good example because Smiley was the first person, and I was one of those guys, but Smiley was the first person that made me see the other side of it, that there is a business into it that has to be addressed in order for us to play. Mm-hmm. And I took over this series basically so that Casey would have a place to race. And now he's got to help me run the series. So, I'm 57 years old. I've been doing it for over 57 years, as I said before. And Casey's been doing it as long as he was a twinkle in our eye anyway. He's been driving since he was about 6 months old.
That's awesome. I love
but
that.
As far as the thankless job, you've got that right. I'll tell you, I say that a lot. If anybody has a problem with the way we do things, I give them a little taste of it. That's one of the things that we do in our series. If you step outside the rules and you're asked not to come back, well, before you can come back, you've got to help us officiate a race so you see what we go through.
Man.
Yeah. And you got to do a good job, too.
That's how you do it.
There with the radio on.
That's how you do it.
I'm telling you, it has made some of the best competitors we have open their eyes to what we go through. And, and I'm not trying to put anybody in their place, but a lot of times I want them to understand if we were trying to make money, we'd go get a job. We wouldn't go to the racetrack and give them a place to race. But, it's when I say it's a thankless job, there's nothing like a night going off well and everybody happy and the grandstands are full and you sell a lot of T-shirts and people can't wait to see you come back. It's a rather rewarding feeling. And I guess you have to say we do it all for that.
Mm-hmm.
What was it? One of our favorite promoters, Rusty Marcus of the World Series down at New Smyrna. He said, being a promoter is like peeing on yourself with a dark gray suit. No one else knows you're doing it, but it makes you nice and warm inside when a job well done. So he has one of our favorite lines about being a promoter. But Casey, talk about you running in the series. Obviously, you get a chance to help run it, but you got to race in it. How do you balance that fine line between doing both of them?
Well, this year I kind of picked up school a lot being a full-time college student, and it made more sense for me to go to work for the series than drive in it. But, previous years I got started in it, and it was just, like you said earlier, a really tight-knit group, and it kept everything interesting, and it was still a lot of fun, and it wasn't ever too much hassle. But this college thing, it soaks up a lot of time, and it's one of those things he talked me into, and he asked me if I was interested in helping him try to figure this out and run things, and I just couldn't pass him up on it.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Right. I mean, and that's so important. Isn't that the funny thing, guys? I mean, because having you both here, I mean, it is. I mean, it's like it's just a few of us that just try to keep plugging away at this thing, and it's like we got to get the new people in. And y'all touched on, Danny, you touched on something a while ago to where it's like you got to do the other stuff. You got to sell T-shirts and make it entertaining for people to come on out and just enjoy the races. I mean, it's not so much just about the racing anymore.
Well, that's true. What we do with our group, every time the Texas Sprint Series shows up at a racetrack, and time permitting, the first thing we do is we go to introduce all the drivers to the crowd. Mm-hmm. We let them know what car they're driving. We let them go out and they hot lap, and then they go up and they have to introduce themselves. And we introduce all of them. They get to plug their sponsors, and then they go up and they give a flag to the kids up at the grandstands. Each one of them have a flag that they have to find a kid. They sign it, and if they win the feature, the kid gets a free T-shirt with all the autographs of all the drivers on it.
Love it.
And they get their picture taken out on the track with the winner of the race.
That's awesome.
So really good for fan involvement. A funny story. Back when Casey was probably 8 or 9 years old, he was such a good kid. I had a bad night, and I pulled in. I was probably 5 laps deep into the race. And he says, I was all mad. I got out, and he says, "Who'd you give your flag to, Dad?" And I said, I don't know, a kid in the grandstands. He says, well, how old was he? I said, I don't know, son, 9, 10, I don't know what. He says, well, that kid's probably pretty sad after you pulled off after 5 laps. Oh, my God. I'm kind of worried about the kid in the grandstands. I just screwed up my car, but yeah, it was, he was, even way back then, he was worried about what those kids thought, and it's really good. I hate that he's not going to be in a car, but I really school's got to come first.
That's right.
It works out well for me, so he can handle my media. And I think it's going to do all of us really good. He'll see the other side, and possibly we'll get the help that we need to make this thing go as well as it did in the past.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Casey, we're not going to let you go without talking about what school are you going to and what's your major, because we know school is important, but we got to figure out if you're with the right allegiance.
So I'm going to class now at UT Arlington, and I'm pursuing my bachelor's in mechanical engineering.
Nice. That's impressive. That's impressive. So, so your thoughts on that? I mean, stepping away to not be a part of the nuts and bolts. Now you're on the other side, and you get to do the fun part, because like we were just talking about with Danny, I mean, and now you get to handle all the people bitching and complaining. I mean, your thoughts on that moving forward?
I mean, I really wasn't happy to step away from driving for the year. Really, it's the one thing that I like doing, and I wanted to stay around it. But with all the scheduling and stuff, it really did work out better for me to do this, and I do enjoy kind of being behind the media side of things, because it lets me stay connected with everybody outside of the racetrack and all across the U.S. and stuff. I have people message me all the time, ask me all kinds of questions, and I'm always happy to answer them. I think that's the really good part of what I get to do, is just interact with everybody. Yeah,
I agree. That's a great thing.
Now, guys,
I
don't let him fool you. I had to promise him that I'm going to build him a 360 and a 410 so that he can go race occasionally this year with other series. He just has to help me with this one. So, yeah, he's not the golden child he's making himself out to be, but hey, I give him great props.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. So I got to ask you both. I mean, because I announced last year at Heart of Texas, which is one of the tracks on your schedule. It's one of those things to where, talk about sprint cars. I mean, we were talking about kind of the dynamics of the car, but it's one of those things to where I would see at the end of a race night, the week before sprint cars, all they had to do was go put sprint cars on the marquee and people would go crazy. I mean, it is, I don't give a damn what the rules are, man. People just want to come on out and see these dynamic machines.
Well, have you ever been to a sprint car race that wasn't exciting?
Exactly. Right.
You've got to, even a one-lane track has a great level of excitement, just because you've got, and I hate to say it, but you've got guys that pull the bonehead move, and it puts on a show for these guys. You've got cars that are extremely fast that put on a show for these guys. Mm-hmm. You've got people that you only hear about. They get to show up once or twice a year at a racetrack, and you get to see what they do, and you know what they're all about. The level of excitement in sprint car racing it's unmatched, I believe, in just about anything you do. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to have Kyle Larson there just to make everybody interested. It's natural. It's going to show up. I mean, whether it's wingless or winged, and it's any way that you want to race a sprint car. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first heard Smiley put these 305 sprint cars together, I didn't even want to go look at them. I said, what can you do with a turd of a 305? And boy, was I wrong. I'm telling you, it's amazing what you can do with the wing cars with a little bitty motor. Yeah. And what's even more amazing to me is you can run any size with a wingless car and be competitive on both ends. They say you can be competitive with a wing car with any size motor, and I'll say the right guy can, but I'm telling you, it's nothing like getting 30 cars out on the same track. You fill the whole track, the level of excitement. And, we've had some races, quite a few races go flag to flag, and I'm telling you, you can't beat it. I mean, the guys just, you beat them inside, you beat them outside, you race them hard both ways, and if you keep the bonehead moves down, to me, it's more exciting. Yeah. I know there are people that show up for the crashes, but
for sure,
the level of competition in our group is unmatched.
Yeah,
we've got the best 305 racers in the state, and I'd almost beg to thought that it's nationwide. We've got some of the best drivers.
Yeah,
if they show up and race, and they put on a show with us.
Yeah. That's right. racetss.com. So break that schedule down. Lastly, I mean, I love what you did right there. I mean, you've got some months where it's 3 times, other months where it's 2 times, and that's a big part. I mean, you got to make it to where guys that want to travel, I mean, make it to where they can get from track to track.
Well, ideally, you don't want to go to one racetrack, every month.
Right.
We really try to keep our schedule down to every other weekend in racing. Of course, you have to work around the schedules of the racetracks as well, and all.
Sure.
And we try to get in as many tracks as we can without being there too many times. We've got 7 tracks with 18 nights of racing. That's not including the Eagle Raceway Nationals, and we put that on our schedule just because I encourage everybody to race our national event. That's all the race savers come together at one time of the year. There's usually 125 to 150 sprint cars show up there to race in one weekend. And, we really like to think that we're a part of it. We go up there and help them officiate. We've gone and raced it a couple of times, and I tell you, it's a lot of it's a luck of the draw. I'm telling you, on a heavy track, it's a 1-lane lockdown central, but, we try to make sure that we're spread out enough that people are starving for sprint cars when we get there.
That's right.
And the type of racing that we put on.
Yep. And they usually are. I mean, like I said, people see sprint cars and they are ready to go. I mean, great schedule you guys put together, and looking forward to a great season, man. Thank you both for jumping on. We let us know how to help you. I mean, that's what we do with the show. I mean, we're just promoting racing in Texas and Oklahoma and all across the region.
Well, we appreciate any kind of notoriety you can bring to us, and we'd love to put this up on our Facebook page. I wish I've been so dadgum busy trying to get the businesses lined up to where I can spend more time promoting this deal, but
yeah.
I would love to come back on with you maybe during the season, and we're doing some really neat things, and we keep you guys involved, and you can let everybody else know what we're doing, and whatever we can do to get the word out and get more people to the racetrack, that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely. We'll do it. I'll get you an audio clip of this, and you can promote it however you want to do it. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Sounds
guys.
great.
Thank you so much for jumping on, and let's have a great 2022.
Well, thank you for having us.
You bet.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
All right. Bye.
You bet. That sounds like a fun series.
Does, doesn't it? 30, what did you say? 38 cars race. That's a lot of cars on a short track.
That's a lot of cars. That's a whole lot of cars, and they they sling them wide. You got the guys on the bottom, you got guys on the cushion. I mean, they just race. I think that, man, got to catch one of those. Got to catch maybe 1 or 2 of those races, possibly.
Maybe we'll go up to visit. We'll knock a couple of things out. We'll go up and visit our friends up at Rocket.
Yeah,
watch a Texas sprint race, and then be able to talk to our friends, the Kevins up at Rocket. Maybe knock out a couple of birds with one stone. That might be a really good trip for us.
That's right. Might have to get myself to Heart of Texas. And again, if you missed it, hold on. Let me get behind the mark here. The Enduro that was supposed to be on Saturday has been moved to next Saturday, the 12th. Due to weather, going to be a little gross around here, so that's been postponed. Announcements to come, but don't go to Waco on Saturday for that race because you'll be the only one there. You'll have the best seat in the house with nobody on the track.
That's right. Even if the door's open.
That's right.
Probably when you have the door open.
Yeah, that's right. Great program. I mean, I love talking to those guys, and Bubba Pollard. I mean, magical. That dude, he seems to have that flair to him once again. You notice that? He's
extra
excited.
pep in the step.
Right. I think he's ready to go. I think he's ready to go again.
I think so. I'm thinking of ready to go. It's about that time of the year. I know it's not as big with our hardcore audience here as it is with our Saturday show, but it's almost time to start our fantasy racing league up again. So we'll be bombarding social media with all of that on how to get registered and how to get entered. Same thing, but details to come on that particular award-winning setup there. So almost time for I think it starts at Daytona, not at the Clash.
Yeah, it's all the points races, I think. Yeah. So
we got a couple of weeks to get it rolling, but don't forget to sign up for the Revved Up Fantasy Racing League.
Yeah, we'll get you details on that. And man, folks, bunker down. We're going to have a weather week. we're having a weather week coming up. Wrap those pipes. Most importantly, keep the pets inside. Secondly, take care of the people. Pets first, people second.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Don't forget to tune in on Saturday. We're back on the Horn, and I think that's going to be one of our last shows for a while because I think baseball, softball, something's happening.
Oh,
well,
we'll figure it out when the Jefe sends the emails. That's when we know.
That's right. That is right. Great program. Thank you, Bubba Pollard. Thank you to the great folks from the Texas Sprint Series. Go catch one of those races. Bobby, my man, you got a big weekend coming up, or a big week. Happy
big
birthday
week.
in advance,
Wednesday's,
my friend.
Yeah, Wednesday's the day. Turned the big 43. My hair is starting to show it, but we'll see. You don't have any major plans yet just because the weather looks like it's going to be kind of crappy and downfall of the week. But that's what happens when you have a birthday in the middle part of the week. You just got to get with it. Either should have done something last weekend, probably do something this upcoming weekend. Who knows?
Only gets better. It only gets better, my friend. It only gets better. # Real Race Talk from Texas, RevvedUpSportsShow.com. Y'all have a great week. We gone.